Good morning again. Welcome. Good morning, Chair, board members, general manager, staff, and members of the public. A few housekeeping rules in order to minimize background interference, and as a courtesy to your fellow colleagues, please silence all cell phones and other electronic devices and mute all microphones and speakers on your computer, iPad, etc., unless you're speaking. I'm going to request that the co-host, to the extent that there is interference of any kind during a presentation, please mute the individual participant who is not muted. Thank you very much. I'll take a formal roll call as this is a remote meeting. Just say yes or here. Chair Russ.
Here.
Member Adams. Member Adams. Member Adams.
I was muted. I'm here.
Thank you, Member Adams. Member Gavin.
Here.
Member Gawolb.
Here. Good morning.
Morning. Member Gonzalez. Member Gonzalez. I know you're there. You're muted. Member Gonzalez, you're muted. Just say here. Thank you, Member Gonzalez. Thank you. Member Young.
Here.
And Mr. General Manager.
Here.
Vito. Thank you, Vito. Okay. Chair, there are no members of the public who registered as required in order to provide comments. As such, we will proceed with the regular calendar for today. The first order of business is to adopt the minutes of the prior board meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, February 24th, 2021?
I motion.
Member Gonzalez, seconded by?
Gavin. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Thank you so much. We will now proceed to the reports item on the agenda. Chair, do you wish to provide any comments or remarks?
Just a few updates for the board. And next month, we are going to do a non-voting meeting with the board to give you a full update on the transformation plan, the blueprint. This would be more like a really information meeting, but we decided that we wanted to do it with the full board. We could do it in public session. We could go through the various initiatives in the reorganization plan. Remember, HUD has now concurred in that plan, and we are beginning to put the working groups in place to actually make the changes that the plan describes. We can provide updates on capital. We know that the infrastructure plan that the president just proposed today potentially includes $40 billion in public housing investment nationally. So that would mean if that number holds, some portion of that would certainly be coming to New York. Very early days though, but we will be watching. We continue to meet with the resident groups of all sizes. Yesterday we had a property meeting with Isaacs, for example, on the blueprint and explaining and trying to make sure that the misinformation that's out there about the blueprint is offset with either a town hall style TA meeting or combinations. So we've been doing that consistently. We are almost complete with revised legislation, state legislation for the Preservation Trust. We have a few more details to work out. We've made significant changes based on feedback, and that feedback has come from residents directly, from the CCOP. We've actually been meeting with the CCOP to get their input. I'm not going to represent they're endorsing anything, but they're giving us feedback. So that's been going on. And we're also getting feedback from advocates and others on various changes to this. When that legislation is drafted and complete, that could be one of the items that we review next month. So at least the board is aware of what's in it and you can see what was involved there. We continue to work through with HUD the monitor in the Southern District on a number of the compliance issues. So I just would close by saying that I think next month's information meeting will be a really good opportunity to have the time without the pressure of our agenda and have a good discussion about where we're headed. And then we'll do those on a semi-regular basis, maybe quarterly or something, so that we don't have to take up as much time with each board meeting. When we have today's agenda, we have about 21 items, but next month it could be 40. So that's an update from the chair real quickly. If any questions, I'd be glad to take them.
I have more of a comment, Chair Russ. This is Victor Gonzalez. Up here in the Upper West Side, there seems to be some. I don't want to call it misinformation, because I don't know what's going on with the elected officials and NYCHA. But there's some information that's a little unclear. And I went through the transformation plan, and what these electeds are saying isn't quite the language that's in the blueprint. So I was wondering if I could email you the name of this group. They're resident association leaders. Right.
No,
maybe you can, or you or someone or a representative of someone can answer those questions for them.
So
because it's not just the Wise Towers consolidation. It is some of the surrounding developments as well. I know what it says, but it would be easier if someone could elaborate on it.
Right.
Okay. I will send an email to the corporate secretary, and then she could send it to you. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fine, Victor. And I just want to emphasize, we've been hearing this a lot. I spoke with a resident at one of the Wise buildings over the weekend. She had, we talked for about 45 minutes on everything from the property management to the blueprint. And her building is, I can't remember the address, but we talked a lot about the misinformation, and people are just repeating the most outrageous claims. I mean, honestly, we had a demonstration last week, and it was all about privatization. There is no privatization in the blueprint. It's totally public. But if you can alarm and scare people with the idea that either this private developer or private manager is going to come in and take your apartment, that's probably one of the worst things that's happened in this sort of information battle, is this fear that somehow by doing this, you're going to lose your housing. And that's simply not true. It's not true. And yet it gets they're going to privatize. They're going to have private developers and private investors are going to take your properties. But none of that is true. And send it, Victor, and then we'll see if we can't do some meetings up there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Excuse me, this is Paula. Gavin, a thought just came to me as I listened to you, Chair Russ, and heard Victor's question. Over the years, I've watched as misinformation is repeated, and one of the groups that can be helpful in terms of getting out accurate information are the churches. And there is, of course, a council of churches, et cetera, et cetera. And so I just want to put on, the table the idea of possibly contacting some of the churches near some of our bigger developments as new stakeholders.
No, thank you, Paula, because we are beginning to queue up. We have brought on additional help to supplement what staff has been doing in terms of the meetings and the contacts. And one of the avenues is to think about engaging the churches. So, but that's helpful.
Yeah, I should have been more accurate and said faith-based to be comprehensive.
Faith-based. Yes.
Yeah,
True.
and if I could just add to that, Paula, as well, I will show my face too. Hi, good morning. We have been reaching out to various community faith-based groups as well, and we've met with many of them, and we have some of those meetings scheduled. So
Oh, great.
we're
great.
on the same wavelength for sure.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Greg. Hello.
Go ahead, Joe. Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
So, Greg, the misinformation comes through language and conversation. I mean, we could get probably Father O'Brien, Pat O'Brien, or somebody, but what happens here is, what happens here is this. There's some standard things that do happen, and me and you've had these conversations, and Ms. Trimble has reached out to me. Thank you. In the process, if the tenants do not do certain things, they will not be able to come back. But in the same breath, we have protections in place. As Ms. Lescott sent me some information when she comes up for her presentation, there are things there to help people, but it's under responsibility of the tenants to address the long-standing rent issues, occupancy, not reporting it. These things, you literally, I don't know how we can word it, but you literally have to say in the language and at the meetings, listen, if the tenants do not try to address these long-standing issues, because you are switching to a private management. And when they do come in, we've lost 25 to 30 more people in these conversions. So you have to literally say, look, I don't know how you can make this palatable. You say, look, the residents are responsible for this and this, or they might not get their apartments, but we have help in place. Once people see the pain or they can see what they're facing. Sometimes people don't get it. Sometimes people are not going to, adhere to it. But at least we've said that, hey, you need to do this to come forward with us when the progress. We will have help in place. And then after that, if people choose not to, how you have people that just won't play fair or play by the rules, then they more than likely will lose their apartments. And honestly speaking, in the conversions, we've lost people, and I'm not saying it's not because of a good reason. They probably have not, done what they're supposed to do. And all right, I'm not saying anything was done inappropriate, but you have to tell people what's there. I mean, I can go to a church meeting, but the mistrust is there, and in the privatization part, the residents are walking around seeing different faces. They're seeing less, in some cases, less maintenance, less, different people that, and between them and the employees, conversations are going back and forth. So that's where the mistrust comes in. I don't know what to do about the employee part, but I'm telling you, you have to have this in that language, because that's something that I need to support. I mean, just tell them, just say, hey, this is with the hammer. You're going to get hit with this. We want to engage you coming along for the ride into what's going to be a better New York City Housing Authority. But if you don't, you might jeopardize, and just be honest. Let's just be as honest with them without being disrespectful or hurtful. But then also, I see that there are some protections and some cushions that help people. I don't see that in any of the language that since we've been doing this. I don't see it. I know later on, as it was alluded to me, that when you actually get in the conversions, they give you paperwork. But from that first cup of coffee or from that first printout, you have to let the residents know the bad stuff or the things that might concur them not having an apartment. And it is true. We've lost people in Bay Plaza. We've lost people at Betances because these residents probably didn't do what they were supposed to do. You don't come in with a shovel and start shoveling people out the door. I understand that. But just let people know what they're facing, because everything in the reports is, pretty and yes, and it's true. We're going to have better facilities, better place to stay, cameras, the playgrounds, things, but let people know the hard stuff. And the legislatures, they kind of leery about that too. I've seen them give you a hard time on TV, and it's just not fair. So that's enough of my part. That's it.
So,
Russ,
no,
may I address this? Since I'm part of the conversion?
Well, I just want to say that there's no private manager in the blueprint. Only in RAD. Only in RAD do we have a private partner. But go ahead, Commissioner Gonzalez.
Board Member Adams,
Yeah.
when the conversion takes place, there is a painstakingly long list of all the do's and don'ts. And they're written in layman's terms. There's not complicated language. It's all written out. You just have to sit and read through all of them. It's about an inch thick. And it points out everything from pets to rents to what's going on to the protections to who you can call. It gives a list of numbers. I mean, it's all in there. You just have to sit and read through it. And that's as far as the conversion. Anything else, I'll let the chair speak on that. But as far as the conversions, there is a long list. And like I said, it's in layman's terms. Very easy to understand. And it's all spelled out.
Okay, so my question before Greg responds is this. I know that. I've seen that document now.
So what are you asking?
No, I don't know if you heard me. I said after the fact, when the conversions start and the residents are actually almost to go through the process, like yourself, you are given this document. I'm talking about the initial conversations with TA leaders, political people. I don't, and okay, the blueprint and everything is different, but there are going to be circumstances with residents are obligated to do certain things. The blueprint just not going to carry people on a cloud into a new apartment. There are things that they have to do themselves. And then you do, and I have read that there are viable cushions for people to fall on to get help if they do what they're supposed to do. I never said there was nothing given to them, to the residents, but this is like as we go to almost to the last stage of it. In these conversations with the TA leaders and stuff, the ones that I'm reaching out to, it's just already so much misinformation there, and you don't read the pain that's going to be in there. There is some pain that people do not do what they're supposed to do. It's just that plain and simple. And I understand that, yes, later on, there's a multi-page document about your dogs and what you're supposed to do and smoking and I understand that, but when that first cup of coffee and the first meeting is set up with people, there's already set in place mistrust. Tell people what the pain is, what it's going to be if they do not take the onus to do what they're supposed to do, but we have help to help you come along. And I haven't read that. Even in the beginning stages of PAC, I didn't read it. If there's something I didn't see now or I didn't catch in the blueprint, because there's changes there that's coming on, so I just don't see it. And even in the blueprint, you have to explain to residents there will be certain responsibilities and things as a partnership that you have to do on your own to make this work. And that's it. I understand. I know that they gave you a document and it gave other residents and WISE documents, but there's nothing there in anything I've read that says, hey, what I'm not going to keep repeating myself, what I just recently stated. I haven't read it. If someone can tell me what page that's on, then please point it out to me, because I have not read that.
So just a couple. We're not rescreening people for the blueprint. So there's not going to be another screening.
Okay.
And they're going to be able to come over pretty much intact. I mean, we do have the issue of whether they're in arrears or not financially, and we would have to deal with that. Now, interestingly, some of the RAD partners have forgiven all the debt and started new with residents. In fact, I think Betances forgave several $100,000 of arrearages and said, let's just start new. And NYCHA may do the same as we migrate under the blueprint. We'll have to see. But I think the thing to say is that, we're not bringing a private element into blueprint, and we're also not rescreening you It's not a rescreening like you've got to be completely rescreened to go into a new program. It's more of a light touch, because we're really trying to minimize displacement. If you look at some of the people that have not carried over, some of those were just people who refused to sign a new lease and just said, I'm not signing the lease. And we had no, the developer had no option for a few of those cases because we didn't have a basis for maintaining occupancy. But we do talk about that in the town halls. We don't necessarily have it in the blueprint document, but that comes up a lot. Will I be rescreened? Will I have to change unit sizes? What's my term? What is this? Is the research process the same? And we have talked about those things. But as we do more meetings at the property level, we're getting into more of that messaging, Commissioner. So some of that is there, but maybe not in the fulsomeness that you described.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I understand it's there. And I don't want to hold the meeting with this, but the thing is the conversation has to be in your face, direct to them. Yes, I understand that there's the rent situation, but there are other issues where people are being evicted in this process. They have people living in their apartments that have not been reported. There are maybe other little violations, and it's good to hear that people did get waivers with rent, but there are other violations that are not permitting people to come over with us. And I'm telling people, say, listen, if you have grandchildren living there or someone helping you or a caregiver, please put them on the lease. Please expect this. And I'm having just basic in-your-face conversations because I say we're going to have a lovely place to stay. I show them pictures, but there's a business element to this, a bottom line business element to this. And that's where all this misinformation comes in for privatization, because people see these faces, they don't feel that they are engaged with them because it's not the normal go into the rent office and Mrs. Bean and sauerkraut is dead. She knows your family, and it's not that type of situation anymore. And when I visited Bay Plaza, you ever seen what was the movie Stepford Wives? Everything was just somewhat, perfect. The grass was green and almost talking to us. We had nice boilers up high. And I'm saying, okay. And we had just one person to talk to. So, I was just saying, wow, this is just simply amazing. But I said, there has to be some pain or something here that people will not be able to partake and take part of. And that's part of business in general. And I'll leave it alone. And just hopefully you have to have this in writing to let them know.
But it is. I mean, before their deal is even closed, we spend 6 to 9 months on these issues, including the one you just mentioned, making sure that the right people are on the lease.
Mm-hmm.
So because the idea is not to put someone out. The idea is to create the opportunity to come over.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's the approach the RAD team has taken, and we're going to actually borrow some of their approaches, even though there's no private partner, for the blueprint, because that pre-development, that pre-closing is a chance for people to get straight, whatever the issue might be. So,
okay. All right, thank you.
Sure thing.
Just let me know what pages those are on so I can read it.
Yeah, I'm going to have Jonathan talk with you, Commissioner, and make sure you get the right scoop, okay?
Yeah, okay. Ms. Trimble's been reaching out to me very,
right.
Tell her thank you.
Yeah,
all
no
right.
problem.
Thank you, Chair. We'll move on to a presentation on criminal justice policy changes, and it's going to be co-presented by Yolanda Johnson-Peterkin, Holly Martin, and Erin Burns-Main. Yolanda?
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is...
Morning.
Good morning. I'll kick it over to Yolanda in just a moment. My name's Erin Burns-Main. I'm the Senior Director of Policy and External Affairs. I'm joined today by Yolanda Johnson-Peterkin, Chief of Housing and Community Activities, and Holly Martin, Deputy Director of Policy. We're presenting to you today a set of changes to policies related to criminal justice for admissions and tenancy at NYCHA. The goal of these changes is to continue to modernize NYCHA's policies and our ability to balance community safety with fair and just policies for residents that have criminal justice involvement or histories. As you know, NYCHA has been working towards this goal and these changes over the last decade or so, with changes to look-back periods starting in 2011, to standing up the Family Reentry Program in 2013, improvements to the permanent exclusion policy, releasing more data and guidelines online. And now we have this very public process that we've been going through over the past 6 months. While these changes don't require a vote, we still wanted the chance to brief the board on these changes, which again are a result of a very robust public engagement process that included what we can remember in recent history as the first of its kind in terms of a public comment period. So with that, I will turn it to Yolanda Johnson-Peterkin to kick off the presentation.
Thank you so much for that, Erin, and good morning to our chair, to our general manager, to our board members. Thank you so much for this honor, and of course to all of my peers who are on the line as well. Next slide, please. Yes. NYCHA is changing its policies to related to some of its criminal justice policies in an effort to modernize and move forward the work that we have been doing around individuals who may have done something in their past that they're not so proud of. We are very excited about the opportunity to propose these changes, and we released I had a comment period as we released these changes and the things we were thinking about to the public. It was the first time ever that we made an attempt to do that. It was called the comment period. And if you guys can remember, it came out in around September, and they asked for another month. So we got it back sometime around October. NYCHA's final policy changes reflect comments that were received from residents, staff, advocates, and other community members. You know, NYCHA is committed to continuing to improve its policies and fair access for individuals so that they may be able to reunify with their family. This is in no way the answer. We have started a couple of years back, and we are modernizing so that we will be able to be in line with what is happening in our community currently. We're going to take these steps, and we're going to continue to build as we revamp some of our policies. NYCHA already has fantastic, the Family Reentry Program, if you haven't heard about that. I know that Mr. Gonzalez did because he was there celebrating with us.
Yes.
But we know that fair policies and an opportunity for individuals to move back in with their family promote safety. And so we're shifting the way that we have these conversations with our police department as well, because we know individuals are coming back and they are successful with their family. Next slide, please. The Bureau of Justice Statistics shows that rearrests and convictions are highest in New York after release from incarceration. We can imagine. For people returning from prison and or jail, having a stable place to live is what gives them the opportunity to stay out, but it reduces the chance of them going back, recidivating, or ending back up behind bars. In 2017, more than 54% of individuals released from prison in New York City were released directly to the shelter system. Multiple studies show that people who are formerly incarcerated experiencing homelessness in New York City are more likely to go back. Just providing access to safe and stable housing is the way that these individuals have been able to stay out, which for us decreases crime. And of course, I have to speak about the Family Reentry Program that gives an opportunity that we do here for the past 6 years. And it gives an opportunity for mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, mother, father, sisters, and brothers, domestic partners to move back in with their family. And it has been extremely successful, which made us also take a look at our front door policies. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Holly.
Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you, Erin, and thank you, members of the board, for allowing us to present to you this morning. Next slide, please. So when we convened an internal working group of NYCHA staff to look at various admissions and occupancy policies related to criminal justice. And the three areas that we came up with to address, the first two have to do with admissions and the last one has to do with occupancy. So the first one is the criminal background check that all applicants undergo on their way into NYCHA. Certain criminal offenses in a person's past subject that person to a very length look back period. So if you have committed, let's say, a Class A felony in the past 3 years, you would not be eligible to enter NYCHA until the 6-year period that that crime is subject to had passed. So you would not be eligible to live in NYCHA until that time period had passed. The second area we looked at is during our eligibility interview, we're required by HUD regulations to deny eligibility to anybody who is currently using an illegal substance. However, HUD leaves it up to the public housing authorities to determine what constitutes currently using. So we looked into our policy for that as well. The last area that we addressed is the permanent exclusion remedy that exists when criminal activity is committed by a member of the NYCHA community. And NYCHA, depending on the criminal activity, can move to terminate the household based on the criminal activity of one of its members. Permanent exclusion allows NYCHA to remove the member of the family that committed the criminal offense instead of the entire family. Next slide, please. So as Erin and Yolanda both mentioned, this was our NYCHA's first time releasing policies like this for public comment. We actually got a pretty good return of comments. We received 248 comments. The comments were from a mix of residents, NYCHA employees, advocates, and other community members. We actually did not ask people to disclose whether they were residents, employees, or advocates, et cetera. So we think that moving forward, the next time NYCHA does a public comment program, it could be good to ask people to actually disclose, because then you can understand exactly who is saying what. However, a lot of people did disclose. Of the 248 comments, 93 commenters identified themselves as residents, 17 as former or current NYCHA employees, 44 as advocates, and then again, there were 100 comments from people who either did not identify as one of those groups or identifying themselves as other concerned New Yorkers. About 8% of the people who commented disclosed that they had some experience with the justice, child welfare, or shelter systems. So only 35% of the commenters included specific feedback on the proposed policies. Other commenters discussed more general feelings about their willingness to support admission of formerly incarcerated individuals. A lot of residents wrote about personal safety concerns, of course, the physical conditions of their NYCHA developments or units. And there was a small subset of individuals that made personal requests for social service or housing assistance. Next slide. So diving into the specific policy changes that we proposed. The major change that we proposed for public, when we released the policies for public comment, was the creation of an individualized review committee. This committee would be modeled off of the reentry admissions committee, which does an excellent job, and would consist of members of NYCHA staff from various departments at NYCHA that sort of have experience or good perspectives on evaluating an individual's whole circumstances. So the goal here would be, if an individual, as I mentioned earlier, were within that look back period for a certain crime in their past, instead of finding them ineligible based on that look back period automatically, that person's case would be sent to this committee. And the goal here is that the committee would be able to provide a more holistic look into that person's individual circumstances to determine whether or not this person should be an eligible NYCHA resident. So a lot of the comments that we got back from advocates especially had to do with what kind of training and what kind of the structure of this committee should look like. So the commenters suggested that, among other things, the committee receive annual training on individual, organizational, and structural racism. And they suggested other things as well. They suggested term limits for people on the committee. They suggested, they spoke as to whether the committee should be somebody's staff member's full-time responsibility or whether it should be part of somebody's wider responsibilities. So we've taken all of that, into consideration, and we are going to move forward with the creation of this individualized review committee with this input from the commenters. In addition to the creation of the individualized review committee, we wanted to take a deeper dive into the actual offenses that would subject somebody to a waiting period coming out of incarceration and the length of the waiting period itself. And of course, as we know, it's a priority of Chair Russ to align the Section 8 and Section 9 programs as much as possible. So right now, as we speak, NYCHA's Law Department is doing a deep dive into the list of offenses that are subject to criminal background check look-back periods as between the Section 8 and the Section 9 programs, with the goal of harmonizing those standards as much as possible. And NYCHA will, as the Law Department finishes up its analysis and makes recommendations to Chair Russ, NYCHA will provide an update on this project as well sometime this spring. Next slide. So the second policy area that we looked into was this current use of an illegal substance. So as I said, HUD leaves it up to public housing authorities to determine what constitutes currently using. Right now, NYCHA's policy is that we ask during the eligibility interview, we ask all applicants whether they have used an illegal substance in the past 3 years. So when we first looked at this policy as the internal working group, we decided that 3 years was really too long a period of time to determine whether somebody was currently using an illegal substance. We proposed instead to shorten that look-back period to 1 year. We also proposed that we use the same individualized review committee to more deeply investigate a person's individual circumstances before subjecting them to ineligibility based on this question. The public comment feedback from this policy proposal was that it didn't go far enough. People felt that the 1 year look back period for determining whether someone is currently using an illegal substance was still too long. And in response, NYCHA is going to shorten the period further to 6 months. And we are also going to adopt the proposed recommendation of sending the person's file to the individualized review committee before making a final ineligibility determination. Next slide. And finally, the last area we looked at was permanent exclusion. So currently, if a household has somebody who is permanently excluded, the head of household can apply to have the permanent exclusion lifted at any time. So we wanted to tweak that a little bit so that the permanence of the permanent exclusion was softer and even less permanent than it is now. So the proposal here was that permanent exclusion stipulations state that the exclusion will automatically lift after 5 years without involvement in the justice system. And this is, of course, with the tenant of record's consent, because oftentimes or sometimes the tenant of record doesn't want the person who's excluded returning to their household. So we would need to have the tenant of records consent in the stipulation. We also proposed that we set a minimum age of 18 for exclusions. Current practice is that we don't exclude people under the age of 18, but we wanted to codify that into NYCHA policy. Some of the comments that we received were that we should increase that age to sometime in a person's 20s. But we thought that for now, especially since 18 is the age where you can sign your own lease for housing, that we would set it at 18. And it also complies with current practice. And then, of course, we would keep the permanent exclusion lift application available so that a person, a head of household, can apply to have that permanent exclusion lifted at any time, even before the 5-year automatic lift, or if that 5-year lift doesn't happen because that person did have subsequent involvement in the justice system, they could apply to have it lifted after that. Next slide. And of course, in keeping with some of the goals of the transformation plan and some broader goals for NYCHA here, we wanted to bring in some great training for NYCHA staff. So we have engaged with the Center for Court Innovation to provide an in-depth, curated procedural justice training for NYCHA staff. CCI has done a training like this before a few years ago, provided to NYCHA staff, including attorneys, and it was great. And we thought that it would be even better if CCI could create a specific training for NYCHA in particular. And then, moreover, the curriculum would include presentation slides, exercises, and a facilitator's guide so that NYCHA could continue to provide this training even in subsequent years, even after CCI was no longer providing the training materials themselves. We also wanted to better external communication. So we have engaged with Corporation for Supportive Housing, CSH, to bring together a large group of stakeholders from multiple system sectors and perspectives. And this group is going to be having quarterly meetings. We already had our first one in March, and it went really well. And the goal of these meetings is to really have an open dialogue between NYCHA and this broader community on all justice-related NYCHA's programs. It's an opportunity for NYCHA to communicate with the broader community about our programs and policies. And it's also an opportunity for NYCHA to receive information from these individuals and these institutions about how to better create, advance, and implement justice-informed policies and procedures. I think that is the last slide. Yep. Thank you all very much for allowing us to present today.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, Member Adams.
Yes, Commissioner.
Hi. Couple of questions. I'm a former employee with the police department, so I've had to arrest people for various things, and most of them were felonies. But anyway, the 3 to 6 year waiting period, I went to a meeting a while back, and at that meeting, we were told that the goal is to get these men, in particular men, who have had these transgressions with felonies, to get them back in their home as soon as possible. 3 to 6 years is a long time to pass the protocol. I'm just saying a lot can happen then. I'm not saying it's unfair. I don't know if anything can be done to expedite that with exterior agencies based on their drug testing and anything else, but 3 to 6 years is a long time. And at the meeting I went to, they were telling us that their goal is to get families back together. My second question is the 18-year-old rule. Does that mean that if I have a child that's in college, past 21, they might not be able to live with me, or be some circumstances going forward? And the last one is a scenario. I'm a resident of public housing. I have children who have engaged in vandalism, gang activity, or whatever. What would be the procedure or scenario with addressing that? That's it. Those 3 questions.
So let me answer the first question. So the 3 to 6 year waiting period, I think we are all in agreement here that the waiting period, not necessarily that they're too long or too short, but that we wanted to give individuals the opportunity to be individuals. And that's why we're creating this individualized review committee, so that if somebody's offense does fall within that look back period, but that person is really ready to join the NYCHA community and reunify with their family, which is the overarching goal. I think NYCHA's goal in general is to have families be together. So the individualized review committee is a start, and it's going to give people the opportunity to be seen more as individuals rather than an offense and a number, and then you're disqualified.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Holly, it's Greg. Would that mean that it could change the time periods and how we consider them and all the rest of that based on the assessment of the offense or issue? So we could say, wait a minute, we really shouldn't be looking at 3 years in this case because there's this mitigating factor.
Oh, okay. The flexibility. All right.
Yeah, that's the flexibility, Commissioner. I think that it gives us a chance to look at the entire person's path,
Okay.
to account.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Holly. I know you've got, I'm sorry.
No, thank you. That was helpful. Thank you. The second question had to do with the 18.
Yes.
The age 18. So yes, this means that if somebody in the household who's over the age of 18, and this is current practice, but we're just sort of memorializing that this is current practice. Somebody over the age of 18 in the household commits criminal activity that could put the whole household's tenancy in jeopardy.
Got you.
That individual could be excluded from the household if they're over the age of 18.
Okay. Sounds okay. I'm on board with that. Right.
And then the last question, can you repeat that?
Well, if I'm a current resident and I have children who are engaging in vandalism, maybe some type of illegal activities, and then normally there's a police report generated about what's going on with me and my family in that apartment. What is the procedures now in addressing that?
So I don't know that I'm necessarily the best person to speak to this. If anyone else wants to hop in.
I'm not quite positive if the person hasn't done anything that warrants an arrest. I believe I'm not quite positive how to answer that unless the family member reaches out to family partnership, because family reentry is a part of family partnership where we have an opportunity to engage that family or that mom, the head of household, around what she might, or dad, around what they might want to do about having their family member, things that are happening with their family members. And then, of course, since we are rich in understanding many of the criminal justice entities in the community, we can try to engage that family around, having criminal justice agencies and partners be a part of mitigating those factors, because those are the things that we want to look at prior to, because we'd rather those family members not be arrested. So that would be on our prevention side, but it would have to come from the family member. And if it was reported to us in any way, we can reach out, but they have to be willing, because it would be voluntary that they reach out and be a part of the system.
Okay. Oh, I think, okay, so I have a son and he did these things and I literally put him out. The stench of me getting in trouble does not hang over me as that's what I think that's what you're saying.
Right. Well, if you put him out, then that saddens us as well as parents. But if you put him out and he's out in the community doing something, if he gets arrested, unfortunately, then we would have to deal with that then. But absolutely, that you are not getting in trouble for. That's the whole reason for permanent exclusion from the beginning. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Keeping families together is what we're trying to do now. And I don't know whether you know, but we are saturated at this point in trying to make sure that we catch people before they actually get in trouble. And if unfortunately they have been gotten into something, we have so many different entities. We are rich in New York with entities to be able to help people out of something that they may not be so proud of.
Well, as I stated, my job was to catch them when they did something bad on public school facilities. But that's another story for another day. But thank you.
Yes. Good morning, Holly or either Yolanda. Maybe you can answer this question. This is Board Member Young. So I have a question in regards to the 6-month rule in regards to the drug use. New York is currently in the brink of legalizing marijuana. Has discussions been made toward if legalization is voted in? Has discussions been made regarding the smoking of marijuana, as NYCHA currently has no smoking of cigarettes policy in place? Has discussions been made in regards to marijuana as well?
Hi, thank you for your question. I can get started, and Chair Russ, if you'd like to hop in, please do. Marijuana has been discussed. We're well aware that New York State is about to hopefully legalize marijuana soon. Marijuana does remain illegal on the federal level, and as a federally funded and regulated agency, the question is a little bit complicated for NYCHA. However, in this context, in this specific context of the 6-month question, we do not specify what illegal drugs are. So we just ask people if they have used illegal substances in the past 6 months and leave it to them to determine whether the answer is yes or no.
It's interesting, just a side note, when that question is asked, people do disclose because they want the housing. They want a chance at being housed or keeping their housing. And I think that's a very compelling reason for some of the steps that the team outlined today that we're, as we shift sort of positions. But we will be talking, I don't think the smoke policy distinguishes on the type of smoke. For example, and residents do complain often if there's an apartment that is smoking a lot of marijuana, because that's that's through the hallway, among other things. The second issue is we do not have a full reconciliation at the federal level and the state, as the federal laws have not caught up with a lot of the state law. And I think one of the things that we've already started to do is, this is not, we're not looking at these offenses, if they do occur, in the same way we might have looked at them a decade ago. And I think one of the things that now with New York shifting like this is we're going to craft a policy that's going to recognize, we got to recognize the state law and maybe put HUD on notice that, that's the kind of enforcement we would be working around, is a legalized cannabis for adults. I suspect there might be action at the federal level. We haven't seen it. I know the president himself has mixed feelings on it. He dismissed several staff members for having smoked marijuana in the past, but we're going to try to give us a realistic policy. Honestly, if you're caught with a joint and you're not doing anything else, is that going to, no, how could that lead to your loss of housing? I just don't think that's a fair way to think about it. And you could be, it's sort of almost, if that's the issue, then that's not, I think as time goes by, that's not going to rise to offense where we're taking that into consideration. The smoke in the corridors is harder. because people do complain about that. But that's more of an anti-smoking question. And when we do the transformation plan, we're going to have a resident roundtable commissioner, and a lot of lease enforcement questions have come up as we talk about the blueprint and the reorganization. Lots. It's on people's minds. So we want that roundtable to come up with ideas on how we should enforce the lease, and in this case, the non-smoking provisions. So there's more work on this that you'll see.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Pirikin, I remember the event in the ceremonial room when it was the kickoff, and I thought it was a great idea due to the fact that if society can forgive a person who's done their time, I'm glad that NYCHA is following suit. Although I agree with some of the people that no plan is perfect, but it's good that we're moving forward to try and keep families together. Now, I do recall one of the policies with regards to a person becoming persona non grata and couldn't be on the grounds of NYCHA whatsoever, and if reported, could be arrested again. But now I see that the policy is loosening up some, and I would like to know, if not now, later, when you finally complete the document and it's become part of the way things are. Number one, I would like to see, if at all possible, and if anybody else is interested, I would like to see a copy of the document once it's done, to see all the different provisions and changes that you've made. Now, people can change, and people are career criminals. That has been, and I hate using the word that way, career criminals, they will not change. But the fact that we're trying to give them the opportunity to do so is good. So the persona non grata now I see is going to be loosened up some. So again, right now, in order to save time, I'm going to ask as to what the whole process is going to be to change them from being persona non grata to someone who can now go be on NYCHA grounds and go visit the relatives. But I would also like to ask that if anyone interested, if they could send us a copy of the finished document so that we could read it for ourselves and try to understand it, so that we know what's going on. And again, I thought it was a great idea. I still do. But like I said, every plan and every system that's put in place, it's not perfect, but it's good to lean in that way, for a person committing a mistake to not to be, shall we say, charged with it for the rest of their lives. And so that is my comment.
Thank you so much for that comment. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. There are going to be individuals that are still persona non grata. There will still be individuals who unfortunately may not be ready to be on our grounds. But even currently, those individuals who we have said, I think you're talking about people who have a trespass ban. Those individuals too can have those trespass bans lifted. We were in with one police plaza last week speaking about trespass bans. So there's a way for those individuals, even before this process, to be able to have those lifted. As you know, the program that we have now to help people move back with their family has been in existence in NYCHA for about 6 to 7 years, and it has 169 people, and only 5 of them have been rearrested and charged and convicted. So we know that it's already going to be positive. Now, the shift that we're speaking about is some of our policies on the other side, aside from the program. And those we will definitely, the commented period that we captured all that data, we'll be happy to give you the outcome of that data. And then the changes that we may be presenting today are going to go into the way that NYCHA is actually allowing people to come in through when they put in their applications from the front door. So it may not necessarily be somebody joining a family. It could be them on their application as they come through, especially individuals who are currently in homeless shelters. So yes, whatever information, we want to make sure we get it to you so you can be clear about that information. but we absolutely no longer want individuals to think that they can't come on the grounds at all. But I have to be clear that there will be individuals who we still feel may not be ready to come in for several reasons, right? May not be ready to come into public housing. So we still do say no.
Okay. Okay. It's good seeing you again.
You too.
I remember the event with all the naysayers coming out of the walls and woodwork.
Yes.
And then you guys had perfect examples that the program did work at the event.
Yes.
I spoke to many of them.
Yes, we are the lead across the United States. They call us so that they can do it in their states. We are excited about the
Very good.
opportunity, especially at a time such as this, when everybody wants to see families back together.
And keep up the good work.
Exactly. Ms. King? Ms. King, hello?
Member Adams, proceed with your question.
The occupancy part that I read initially when in the paperwork is not there. How does everything you've been talking about affect occupancy? Like maybe unreported people, or is that the area I'm asking the right question about? I saw the word occupancy, so it's not there right this minute in regards to what you've been discussing this morning. Occupancy, how, like unreported people or.
Yeah, so by occupancy, we just divided it into categories: admissions and occupancy. So on the admissions end, we had the criminal background check and the illegal substance.
Oh, okay.
use. And on the occupancy end, we had the permanent exclusion because that affects current occupants of NYCHA.
Okay, thank you. That's it. That's all.
And Holly, I just had a follow-up question. It's possible, though, where we're making these standards consistent, some of this criteria could apply, say, if you're adding a family member.
Absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
It will apply. The admissions
Yes.
the admissions pieces will apply if you're adding a family member. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Commissioner Adams, that could be a way that it impacts occupancy favorably as well.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Yeah, and on that scenario you presented about the joint in the pocket situation, was that done by actual field research or something that we? I'm just asking. Let's move on. Let's move on.
Commissioner, you got to remember what generation I came from.
But the way you came out with a joint, and I said, "Ooh, great, joint in the pocket." And I said, "Wait a minute now, this is getting interesting."
Okay.
All right.
No, there could be some field work involved, but
say no more.
Okay, terrific. If there are no other questions in that presentation, thank you so much, Erin, Yolanda, and Holly. Much appreciated. And we will move on to the actual calendared items, 1 through 21. And we begin with item number 1, Anika. Anika? Am I being heard?
Yes.
Oh,
I can hear you.
okay. Anika, item number 1.
Is she still on?
So, Mariella, could you?
Jackie, I'm happy to proceed with number 2. While she
yes, I was just about to say, Mariella, in the interim, can you try to connect with Anika, and we will begin with item number 2, Jason.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good morning, everyone. I am Jason Goldberg, Associate General Counsel for Corporate Affairs. I am presenting this item on behalf of the General Counsel. This resolution, number 2, seeks board authorization of a $350,000 funding increase to the authority's outside counsel legal retainer with the law firm of Hertzfeld and Rubin, PC. Hertzfeld and Rubin is presently representing the authority in connection with the Maribel Baez class action litigation, which arises out of certain claims regarding mold and moisture in NYCHA apartments. This funding increase is requested in order to pay for certain legal services already rendered and to fund the continued provision of legal services through the conclusion of this matter. As counsel continues to be actively engaged while NYCHA interfaces with the plaintiffs and other stakeholders such as the special master, and as NYCHA implements the terms of the 2018 modified amended stipulation and order of settlement, the requested $350,000 is an approximation of expected continued expenses and costs that may be incurred through the conclusion of this matter. Hertzfeld and Rubin projects 3 Section 3 hires in connection with this funding increase. Are there any questions?
Yes. With the bias situation, that was concluded in court and everything else. What we're dealing with now is the residue. In other words, what they want done moving forward. Is that a correct assumption?
Partially, board member. The court still maintains jurisdiction. There is a settlement in place. The special master was appointed by the court and reports to the court. But for the time being, the terms of the settlement are what the parties are adhering to.
And so some of these changes that we're seeing now with regards to compliance and all the other departments and things that we have put in place are all based on how we're answering the agreement.
Yes, I mean, there are measures that NYCHA is implementing right now in furtherance of this, the amended stipulation order of settlement, such as matters in connection with addressing mold and moisture, roof fans, and things of that sort. NYCHA may be undertaking other related health related measures that are unrelated to this settlement, but in the aggregate, facilitate improving the living conditions of the residents.
All right, thank you.
But you're welcome. But this settlement has certain measures attached to it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. If there are no other questions, thank you, Jason. We'll go back to item number 1. Anika, you're on.
Can you hear me, Madam Secretary?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sorry about my technical difficulties here. So my name is Anika Lescott. Item number 1 requests authorization to enter into an agreement with Simon, Merowitz & Merowitz PC for debt collection services commencing on April 7, 2021 and continuing through April 6, 2026, which includes an initial 3-year term and 2 one-year renewal options to be renewed automatically unless the authority at its sole discretion provides written notice of its intent not to renew prior to the expiration of the expiring term. This agreement provides for debt collection services. The vendor shall handle collection of debts, claims and judgments, and remit any past due and outstanding debt claims and judgments levied against current or former authority tenants, both residential and commercial, and against the authority's current or former Section 8 landlords. The vendor is also responsible for handling other commercial debt collection actions on the authority's behalf, included but not limited to collection actions against the authority's current or former contractors, authority employees, and Section 8 subsidy recipients. The vendor's sole compensation shall be the retention of 35% of the debts collected for the authority. Any questions?
Ms. Scott, thank you. First, thank you for supplying me with the responses you gave. Just want to make a comment. The first one in the response was known as the one-shot deal. That's really been around for a long time. It's really a really structured, hard thing to get now, and there's stipulations to that. So that's not a gimme anymore. Residents getting help with that. So in some cases you refuse, and other options come into play, hopefully still, like Catholic Charities or other entities. The second one you mentioned, which has disappeared, which was kind of, unfortunate to hear, because we need as many support things in place as possible. The third one you mentioned, cloth, I believe, sounds excellent. The hands-on, the availability by being in the management offices to help people, that was just outstanding. And we probably could use another 1 or 2 somewhere down the line as a suggestion. Thank you for your responses. That's it.
So thank you, Board Member Adams, and thank you to the real estate team for helping to prepare that response, and also my colleagues in the public housing tenancy group.
Okay, great. If no further questions, thank you, Anika. We'll move on to items 3 through 11. Joe?
Yes, hi, good morning. This is Joe Cortine, VP in Operations. Presenting items 3 through 11. Items 3 through 8 are regarding in reference to contracts for all-inclusive maintenance and repairs, environmental services, and move-out apartments and court cases. These first 3 contracts, well, I'll just go through this. It's 6 contracts, and it's seeking authorization to rescind 3 of those contracts under items 3, 4, and 5, which authorize the award of these 3 contracts for these repairs to Green Builders Group, New York Incorporated, and secondly, to award 3 IDIQ contracts between the authority and Liberty One Construction LLC for those same all-inclusive maintenance, repairs, environmental services, and move-out apartments and court cases under items 6, 7, and 8. These are 2-year IDIQ contracts with 1-year renewal options. The rescission of the first 3, that's 3, 4, and 5 for Green Builders, is due to a default by Green Builders that defaulted on the contracts under due to its vendor integrity issues. One being, they're supposed to enter their information in Passport prior to submitting the bid, and that 1, Green Builders had been investigated by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation Labor Law Investigation Unit. 2, that Green Builders had been investigated by the New York City Controller's Office, Bureau of Labor Law. 3, Green Builders had been investigated by the New York City Department of Investigations Office of the Inspector General for the authority. 4, administrative charges brought by the controller were pending against Green Builders at the time of the submission for its bid. 5, an individual by the name of Jan M. Hussein, or another alias, was an officer of Green Builders. And 6, Hamed Khan was an officer of Champion Electrical Mechanical Builders Corporation. Green Builders also failed to cooperate with the OIG's investigation, which is further breach of the contract and serves as additional basis for default, and why we're asking for this decision of these 3 contracts under 3, 4, and 5. Additionally, under items 6, 7, and 8, we are asking, as was stated, to award replacement contracts to Liberty.
Liberty One Construction LLC, DBA
Sorry.
Liberty One Group LLC. That's the entity.
Thank you very much. Liberty One Group LLC for these all-inclusive maintenance repairs in apartments and move-out apartments and in court cases. And item number 6 is for various Bronx developments in the amount of $40,318,000. For item number 7 is various developments in Manhattan in the amount of $38,454,000. And item number 8 is various developments citywide in the amount of $10 million. These contracts also, Liberty One indicated that they will have a Section 3 hiring plan that intends to hire under contract number 6, 9 electricians, 9 carpenters, 9 painters, 14 laborers, 6 plumbers, apprentices, 5 plasterers, 3 bricklayers, 2 administrative assistants, and 2 supervisors, for a total of 59 hires. Item number 7, Liberty One has indicated in their plan, Section 3 hires, to hire 9 electricians, 8 carpenters, 9 painters, 12 laborers, 6 plumbers apprentices, 4 plasterers, 3 bricklayers, 2 assistant administrative assistants, and 1 supervisor, totaling 54 hires. The item number 8, Liberty One has indicated under their Section 3 hiring plan that they intend to hire 2 electricians, 2 carpenters, 2 painters, 4 laborers, 2 plumbers apprentices, 1 plasterer, 1 bricklayer, 1 administrative assistant, and 1 supervisor, totaling 16 hires. Total under these 3 contracts is Section 3 hires, a total of 129 hires.
Joe?
Yes.
Board member, Adams, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for supplying the paperwork regarding which was requested the licenses on the same vendor, which is 678, I believe, right? And thank you for that. Just a note that this stuff will be expiring in 2 months, but thank you for supplying it. I have it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
And thank you for procurement for providing that information.
Quick question,
Yes, sir.
Board Member Gonzalez. What is the disparity in citywide only having 16 as opposed to the Bronx having 59 and Manhattan having 54? Why was the citywide so low as opposed to where it's all 5 boroughs, you only have 16, but for Manhattan and the Bronx, you have over 103? I would think that citywide includes all 5 boroughs. They would need more people there, right?
Joe, can I just add that the amount for citywide is significantly less, the dollar value, than for the Bronx and Manhattan combined?
I'm speaking more about the Section 3 hires.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez, it's Greg. I think that's the reason is even though the citywide contract is the least amount of money in the 3, because the other 2 are 3 to 4 times larger. So there's more capacity to bring on more workers in those contracts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Joe, proceed.
Okay, thank you. Item number 9 is a request to enter into an agreement with W.W. Granger for the purchase and delivery of textiles, commencing April 1st, 2021, continue on September 30th, 2022. It's for 1-year contract with 6 months thereafter. It's a agreement for textiles, delivery ready for use to authority personnel. Granger will furnish and deliver on an as-needed basis during the period of the agreement specified textiles such as rubber boots, cut-protected gloves, garbage bags, and mattress bags to the authority development's citywide and Long Island City warehouse in the amount of $1,396,374.04.
Proceed.
Item number 10 is seeking authorization to enter into agreement for products and services and equipment rental for disaster response. Contract with Garner Environmental Services Incorporated. Commencing on April 1st, 2021, continuing on to May 31st, 2026. It's a 5-year contract. It's an initial 2-year term with 3 1-year renewal options that will be renewed automatically unless the authority, at its sole discretion, provides written notice of its intent not to renew prior to the expiration of the expiring contract. This agreement provides for services and equipment for disaster response for the authority developments, and includes seeks products, services, and equipment rental for disaster response proposals approved by GSA and to sell multiple award scheduled category for disaster response goods and services. Garner is a full-service environmental company offering services, product, and equipment in rental connection with emergency and disaster response. Garner shall provide personnel support and the following types of rental equipment: power generation equipment, pumps and hoses, environmental related equipment, materials handling equipment, heavy machinery, disaster response base camps, and transportation equipment. Garner offers a variety of products and equipment services for rental to authorized users at certain established rates and listed in Garner's terms and price list. The amount of the contract is $34,583,403.84. Private and citywide.
Joe?
Questions? Yes, sir.
Adams. I got the response regarding this vendor. I can't pull it up at the same time off the screen. Could you just elaborate on their, I think the question was on the availability of their parts and response times. As you know, we don't have disasters that have a 9 to 5 window or holiday schedule. So I know you gave it, I know that was sent, I just can't pull it up. What was that response again from them regarding the timing of being able to get the equipment in a timely fashion and the availability of the equipment? You know, I know it was in there. I just can't pull it up. I'm sorry.
I'll try to pull it up. I'm sorry, too. I'll try to pull it up now.
No, it was given to me. I can't pull it up.
No, I understand.
Thank you.
Okay. But there was an attachment, I believe, from Nitro OEM as to their reliability. Right, I think. Hold on a second.
Okay, yeah, I remember reading it.
Why can't I pull this up now? Sorry. I did not print that out.
Does anyone on the call have that information?
Can't get to it.
Yeah, I can't get to it either. I don't want to knock myself out of the meeting. I can't get to it.
Sorry, board members. I didn't mean the board members. Thank you so much for the response. Thank you.
Can we continue and we'll try to get an answer before the end of the board meeting?
Okay, that's fine. I know it was a response. I just wanted
Sure.
to but I usually read it as we're going along here. But Joe, thank you for submitting the documentation. Okay, you can move along.
Okay, thank you, Member Adams. Joe, please continue.
Yep, we'll proceed. Item number 11 is seeking authorization to award a requirement contract for the purchase and delivery of pest control supplies. This is a contract with Pest Supply Shop Incorporated, doing business as Environmental Chemical Pest Supply, for the purchase and delivery of pest control supplies. This is a 3-year requirement contract with no renewal option. Pest Supply shall deliver during the period of the contract specified pest control items included but not limited to rat snap traps, insecticides for various insects, bed bugs, glue traps, and rat bait stations to Authority Development Citywide and the Long Island City Warehouse. Contract amount is $1,167,344.72. Any questions?
Thank you, Joe. There are
Okay.
no questions.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. We'll move right along to items 12 through 19. Steve will present, but before beginning his presentation, he will move to reports into the record. Steve?
Thank you very much, Jacqueline. CPD reports on the weatherization program and the spending rate. These will be added to and made a part of the record, and I'm available to answer any questions that you have at this time.
Okay.
If there are no questions, I'm going to move on to board item number 12.
Thank you, Steve.
Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to rescind Board Resolution 20-10/28-6, which authorized the authority to enter into an agreement with QED Inc., DBA QED National, for labor compliance, which is certified payroll software applications. The law department identified that QED could not provide the annual subscription services for the use of the software required through the entire term of the agreement. This was due to the limitations by the GSA e-buy procurement process. This made the contract not comply with the bidding documents. I apologize for any inconvenience to the board CPD, as I mentioned, is authorizing to rescind Board Resolution 20-10/28-6. There are no further questions. I'll move on to board item number 13. Following the issue of board item 12, NYCHA immediately procured a new RFP for compliance software, which is our board item number 13. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to enter into an agreement with eComply Solutions LLC for labor compliance or certified payroll software application and software support and maintenance in the not to exceed amount of $1,026,101. This is a centralized wage monitoring solution that can capture, store, and track the data necessary for compliance with the applicable wage reporting rules and regulations, including Section 3. The solution will be accessible to external entities and oversight agencies, as well as several internal NYCHA departments. An RFP evaluation committee made up of many departments or divisions at NYCHA. It consisted of representatives from Capital Projects Division, Information Technology and Development, a representative from Equal Opportunity Development, Accounts Payable and Unit Management Development, and Vendor Integrity and Supplier Diversity Department. It also had non-voting members from Procurement Department, IT, Resident Engagement, Resident Economic Empowerment and Sustainability, to name a few. This diverse evaluation committee reviewed the proposals and submitted evaluations. A BAFO was requested, and eComply submitted a BAFO of $1,029,101, which is about $20,768 less than the original proposal. Overall, this is a 37.99% below the original cost estimate for the program. The agreement will have a 3-year term with the ability to add additional 2-year options. A vendor name check dated March 5th, 2021 was vetted, and there was found no issues to preclude this award. CPD is requesting authorization to enter into this agreement with eComply. If there are no questions on item number 13, I will move on to item number
I'm sorry,
14.
Steve, it's Greg.
Yes, Greg.
I did have a question. Is this will track our wages paid and automate all that, correct? So that we can compare that to the rates that were assigned to that job. Is that the idea?
Correct. The current way in which we do this is manual. So each project manager across the agency, so this will be used for across the agency, they have to go through every invoice and check it against the wage rates associated to that contract. Sometimes that paperwork, especially on large capital projects, can be 2 to 3 inches thick and requires a lot of staff time, as well as there's the element of human error. These compliance software take that out of the equation, and they automatically look at the wage rates by the invoices and the requisitions against the individual and make sure that the wage rates are correct. The benefit to this is that it is automatically updating those wage rates, and so the computer identifies and then certifies that for us. So if it's needed for the comptroller or anyone else, it's a certified wage rate against the salary and invoice.
Okay, so that'll be done and matched, and we'll have that all automated.
Correct. It will also
right.
help us with Section 3 and making sure and monitoring that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, I'll move on to board item number 14. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to ratify the award of an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity job order contract for hazmat work for various developments citywide. This was for to Abatement Unlimited Inc., who was the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. There were 3 lower proposals, but each were deemed non-responsive for failing to comply with the items outlined in the authority's bid documents. Abatement Unlimited Inc. Is the lowest responsive and responsible bidder and submitted a bid factor of 1.68 on the October 8th, 2020 procurement request. Requested a BAFO, or a best and final offer, which was submitted at a 1.49 as the final response. A VNC dated November 18th, 2020 was vetted by our VISDD, our team, which found no issues to preclude the award. In order to provide essential environmental abatement services that impact the schedule of our projects, the contract was awarded back in February 8th, 2021. CPD is seeking ratification of the award of the IDIQ JOC contract to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Again, this is a not to exceed number of $5 million. And there will be 3 Section 3 hires associated to this program. If there are no further questions, I will move on to, yes, Ms. Member.
Yeah, I got the your responses and paperwork. Thank you. On all the items. I'm not gonna go through all of it, but thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Item number 15. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to enter into 2 indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity agreements with 2 firms for New York City Housing Authority's mattress recycling program at various developments for the amount not to exceed of $3 million. NYCHA's 2019-20 to a waste management plan outlined a comprehensive roadmap to make NYCHA's buildings and grounds visibly clean and free of pests by 2025. This plan includes mattress recycling initiative to reduce landfill-bound trash and better bulk waste management. There was an RFP evaluation committee that consisted of 3 CPD staff and 1 representative from Waste Management Department, as well as procurement committee members with non-voting rights. The voting RFP evaluation committee members reviewed the 3 proposals and determined that all 3 met the minimum qualifications. They individually scored and evaluated each of them and requested BAFOs from all 3 firms. The RFP evaluation committee discussed and unanimously recommended the 2 firms who we are seeking for agreements. First was Fastway CTK LLC, who had a score of 75.38 and is going to be providing 3 Section 3 hires. And the second one is Renewable Recycling Inc., with a score of 69.88, and they are going to propose 7 Section 3 hires. A vendor name check for both has been done. There will be no award to a firm until the VNC is issued and vetted by the Vendor Integrity and Supply Division Department and finds no issues to preclude this. CPD recommends that we enter into an agreement with both of these firms.
Questions? Proceed, Steve, please.
Thank you. Item number 16, Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to approve a change order to the contract with Delrick Construction Company, Inc. for the restoration associated to the Recovery and Resiliency Program at Wrangell Houses. This is in an amount of $65,343.29. They are doing work on 5 buildings at Wrangell. There have been 20 change orders associated to this contract. This is change order 21. During construction, 27 trees were removed. The change order is for the replacement of those 27 trees in kind. The work is not commenced, but is expected to take place during the spring of 2021. CPD negotiated the cost of the change order to the $65,343.29. This will change their original award amount to a revised award amount of $26,410,492.25. If there are no questions, I will move on to board items number 17 and 18. Capital Projects Division seeks authorization to ratify 2 change orders to the contract with Novelist Tile Inc., DBA Novelist Contracting, for the restoration associated with the Sandy Recovery and Resiliency Program at LaGuardia Houses. This is a total amount of $132,295.68. Novelist is working on LaGuardia, all six buildings, buildings 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8. There have been 5 change orders prior to this. Change order number 6, which is board item number 17. 2 additional grade beams were required at the electrical service building, where they're replacing circuit breakers at buildings 2, 3, 4 with lower amperages were required. Also, in order to receive approvals from the New York City Department of Buildings and Con Edison Company of New York City, Inc., provisions of stunt trips for the circuit breakers and updates to exit devices for the ground floor door at the new electrical services building were required. Change order number 7, board item number 18. During the construction, there was a power outage at building number 3. Novelist was requested to investigate the cause of the power outage. The power outage was caused by an active water leak inside 2 of the apartment buildings in building number 3, which caused damage to the electrical. This change order is for the investigation and information that Novelist provided. Capital Projects Division is seeking authorization to ratify both of these change orders, change order number 6 and change order number 7. Again, change order 6 was in the amount of $128,787.30. Change order 7 was in the amount of $3,508.38. This would create a revised award amount of $22,165,909.79. Both of these would be paid for through FEMA funds. If there are no further questions, I'll move on to our final item, board item number 19. Capital Projects seeks authorization to amend the retainer agreement with the law firm of Nixon Peabody LLP to increase the not to exceed amount of the agreement for outside legal counsel services in connection with our design build and our construction management at risk project delivery methods by $604,000. The authority entered an agreement with Nixon Peabody to provide the authority with outside legal counsel and services for the design build program and the CM at risk project delivery methods. Nixon Peabody has been working closely with the authority's law department and capital projects division on the current 3 design build RFPs that we have out, one for the pneumatic system, one for the heating plants, and one for the waste yard redesign. This 3rd funding increase, as the authority's capital strategies move from component replacement to comprehensive modernization across the portfolio, it is anticipated that we will have additional design build contracts. We are requiring Nixon Peabody to continue their services in connection to those RFQs and RFPs as we move to the comprehensive modernization design build procurement. CPD is requesting authorization to approve the funding increase to the retainer agreement with Nixon Peabody. This will increase the not to exceed amount to a new total of $2,683,000.
Okay. There are no questions. Thank you, Steve.
Madam Secretary?
Member Adams.
Yes, in regard to item number 10, I made notations regarding the OEM report. I just want to make sure I made the right notes. Does anybody can bring it up on SharePoint for me, please? I'd like to see it.
I will go back to item 10 once I release
Okay, all right, thank you.
from his items and
All right,
make a statement in the record. Thank you so much. Thank you, Steve. Um,
Thanks.
and for the record, the two CPD reports, the one on the board-approved temporary suspension for CPD's WAP, Weatherization Assistance Program and related contracts and change orders, and CPD's spend update for February 2021 are hereby incorporated into and made a part of this record.
Thank you.
We will go back to Joe. I believe you have the information that was requested before by Member Adams. Joe?
Yes, I'm just looking through it. But essentially, I wrote down some notes as I was looking through this. Dave, this is, sorry, I'll just, let me pull this back up again. Okay, so with Garner's commitment is basically to pre-event, right? That when there's a notification of an event, they will return any emergency phone call within 24/7 within 4 hours. So they committed to that. At 4 hours, within 4 hours, and it's 24/7. They will get back to the customer. They will also, upon activations, provide management personnel at the customer's operations center to collaborate within 24 hours. So again, that's when you anticipate an event coming. They will also provide a date and time for arrival of requested resources to sites. So when you have a mobilization, they will send an advance team to make a field assessment, and will strive to have personnel and equipment to respond to the site within no more than 24 to 36 hours.
Okay, that's it, Joe. I had wrote down something different.
Okay.
And something else I misread. That's why I wanted clarification to move forward, in supporting this. So I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Member Adams. And we'll move on to the final two items, Razul 20 and 21.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. My name is Rasul Azanjad. I'm the Vice President of Healthy Home. Item number 20, authorization is requested to approve a funding increase of $780,890 to the requirement contract awarded to Warner Panzer Engineers and PC for lead-based paint dust wipe inspection and testing, which covered the borough of Bronx, which did not require initial board authorization and is subsequently amended to the initial 2 years and with 1 year renewal option to increase not to exceed amount in order to fund the continuing provision of services during the remainder of 1 year renewal option term, which commences on December 27, 2020, and is continuing through December 26, 2021. Penzer, under his section 3, mentioned that he will have one lead wipe technician. Any question?
Okay, please proceed.
Item number 21, authorization is requested to approve a funding increase of $2 million to the requirement contract awarded to New York Environmental System Incorporated for asbestos abatement and replacement of vinyl floor tiles in move-out apartment, which is authorized by Board Resolution 18-5/30-12 and as subsequently amended for the initial 2-year term with 1 year renewal option to increase the not to exceed amount in order to fund the continuing provision of services during the remainder of 1 year renewal option, which commences on September 10, 2020, and is continuing through September 9, 2021. This contract covers the Bronx, borough of Bronx, and New York Environmental mentioned that he will hire one asbestos handler under his section 3. Any questions?
Hey, Razul, it's Greg. I did
Greg.
want to go back to the testing. The amount we're increasing, the 780.
Right.
So they're doing the dust wipe. They're responsible their person does it, and they're responsible for the chain of custody to the lab?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they will take the sample. They're responsible to verify that the work was done, sign off on initial visual inspection, and also chain of custody and the lab report.
Okay, and this is city. This is just the Bronx. Okay,
It's
great.
just the
And
Bronx, yes.
yeah, and you're how many, how many tests roughly do you think this would this be buying us? How many dust wipe inspections does this
I
equate
think
to?
the average cost of this inspection is around $350. So,
Okay, all right.
So, no, we can divide that by.
Yeah, no,
that
that's fine. That's fine. I
Yeah,
just wanted to get a sense of it. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Razul.
Thank you.
Okay. Chair, 21 items were presented.
Hold
for
it,
board-
hold it, hold it. Before you go, I'm sorry. I was muted and forgot to take it off. I just have one
Okay.
thing. Once, Razul, once the inspection is done and it comes back unfavorable, that they found something, what is, first of all, the length of time it comes for them to then go and assess what, how to fix it? And from then, any residue from that, how is it taken care of? Is it put in the hands of the management office, or is it done by the professionals that are coming to abate the situation?
I think whoever abate the situation is responsible. If we found that visual inspection is not passed, they're not going to take the dust wipe, and they refer it back.
Yes.
They refer it back. But if it passed the visual assessment, they
Right.
take the dust wipe, and the result is favorable, then we're good. If the
Okay.
result is not favorable, then they report which area failed, and then we go back to whoever did the work to clean that area again, and we resample until we get favorable result.
Okay. Okay.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Razul. Thank you, Member Adam, Member Gonzalez. No further questions.
be
We'll
right
go
there.
back. Member Adam, Member Gonzalez, you're not on mute.
Sorry.
Thank you. Chair, I just want to get back to you on the number of dust wipe inspections. I did the math. It's 2,231 approximately.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, before the approval voting, I can see all the board members or their names on the screen, but I'm just going to quickly take attendance again before voting. Chair is there, Chair Russ.
Here.
Board member Adams, still
Here.
there. Board member Gavin,
Here.
still there. Board member Gawol, still there.
Here, yes.
Board member Gonzalez,
Here.
still there. And board member Young, still there.
Yeah, yes.
Thank you so much. Chair, 21 items were presented for board approval. May I have a motion to approve the 21 items?
Motion, Young.
Motion, Young. Second by,
Gonzalez.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. None opposed. Now, being that all matters before the board today have been addressed, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So
Motion
moved.
to adjourn.
Gonzalez, second.
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 Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And none opposed. Thank you so much. The next NYCHA board meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, April 14th, 2021 at 2 p.m. As the chair indicated at the beginning of the this meeting, this is an informational non-voting meeting, April 14th at 2 p.m. Then there'll be a further board meeting on April 28th at 10 a.m.
Okay.
The recorded end time for this meeting is 11:50. Thanks for all who participated. Stay safe.
Greg, you still there?
Yeah, Joe, go ahead.
Greg, can I get a copy of that field report on the one joint study, please, when you get a chance? Thank you.